Some major international names are calling for an end to the war on drugs, saying it's a failure. The Global Commission on Drug Policy issued a report saying government should decriminalize drug use. They're also claiming small users rarely hurt anyone but themselves. They recommend legal regulation, adding taxes and rules, and referring chronic users to treatment instead of jail. The big names behind the report include former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, the former presidents of Mexico, Brazil, and Colombia, as well as British billionaire Richard Branson. Opponents say drug use has a major impact on society, and legalization will only make things worse. Joining us tonight, Robert Capecchi with the Marijuana Policy Project. And your group worked most recently here in Minnesota to push a medical marijuana bill that was vetoed by then Governor Pawlenty. What do you make of this report?
This report is great to see. When you have such prominent world leaders such as Kofi Annan, George Shultz, the current Prime Minister of Greece, all calling for an end to the war on drugs as we know it, and calling countries to look at harm reduction and, in some cases, legal regulated models, you know you're stepping towards the right direction, towards ending the failed policies of the war on drugs.
Well, let's look on the flip side here, and a quote from Dakota County Attorney Jim Backstrom in an editorial he wrote for NPR last year. Backstrom calls marijuana America's most dangerous drug, and he argues early marijuana use is associated with drug dependence as an adult. The younger the age of the first time use, the higher the likelihood of such dependence as an adult. And I know you're probably going to disagree with that, but if he's right, isn't that reason enough to be concerned about making the drug more available, especially for kids?
Well, first and foremost, you're right, I do disagree. All objective reports that have been done, government studies have shown that the gateway theory is not true. It's been debunked plenty of times. And as far as if it is true and if a legal regulated model would cause increase in youth rates, I believe that is false as well. You look at it now, and every year teenagers say it's easier to get marijuana than it is to get alcohol, and the reason being is that drug dealers, they don't check ID. You go to a local liquor store, and the retailers who are licensed, they're regulated by local governments, and they've got a lot to lose should they sell underage. Your corner drug dealer or what have you, who sells marijuana amongst other much more dangerous drugs that kids don't have access to through him or her, they have no incentive to check ID and to keep it out of the hands of America's youth.
Well, you mentioned your theory that debunks the gateway theory, but Drug Enforcement Administration and many other studies back up research that shows marijuana could be used as a stepping stone to other harder drugs like heroin, cocaine, and meth, and not to mention the many health risks, you know, loss of motor skills, increased heart rate, and a real significant cancer risk because of increased carcinogens in marijuana smoke.
Pardon me, the cancer risk has been shown by Dr. Donald Tashkin at UCLA that typically the studies that have been done didn't factor out cigarette smokers and marijuana-only smokers. The one study done by Donald Tashkin at UCLA, which was when looking for a link between cancers of the mouth, throat, and lungs and marijuana use, found no link between marijuana-only use and cancer.
We see all the drug violence in Mexico and other countries. Do you really think easing the laws is going to put those drug lords out of business? I mean, won't it just help them grow their business even more?
Absolutely
They already
not.
have the pipelines, the infrastructure, that sort of thing?
Absolutely not. With a regulated business, with a regulated marijuana model, legitimate business peoples would be given license to grow and to sell and to tax and regulate marijuana. You don't see Anheuser-Busch and Miller Coors getting in gang wars on the streets of Denver and Milwaukee over beer markets, and the reason being is they've got legal channels to solve those disputes. The legal channels aren't open to the cartels at this point. The only way they can solve their dispute is with guns and with violence.
Well, all sorts of analogies here, and I'm sure you've got a lot of people talking, and I'm going to invite you back here when we get someone else on the flip side. Maybe we can hear both sides of the argument even more.
I'd appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Robert Capecchi with the Marijuana Policy Project. Thanks for your time tonight.
You're welcome.